Hello. So, in this video we will be talking about animal protein versus plant protein. This video is going to go into detail. You're probably going to have to think, and you're probably going to learn something. If you don't want to do that, if you don't want to think, or whatever, you could watch Mr. Gear cut off his own dick at 10,000 degrees, or, watch him cut a banana, or whatever. Or watch, whatever else you want to watch. Look at Kim Kardashian's new butt, or whatever, Click off this video right now if you don't want nuance, because this is going to be a nuanced point I'm going to make, so I'll wait. Alright, so now we're going to start. So, I'm going to be talking about, as I said, animal protein versus plant protein and which one's better for you. 2 years ago, there was a review published in the Journal of Nutrition that compiled about 100 sources and their research into plant protein and animal protein and which one's more efficient or better for us as humans. So the study is called, or the paper, it's called The Skeletal Muscle Anabolic Response to Plant versus Animal-Based Protein. And I can find anything newer. If you could, please post down below. I'd love to look at it, but so far I couldn't. Anyways, in this video I will go over 3 basic things. The basics of muscle building and talking about amino acids and explaining just basics that you need to understand if you don't know, and also pros and cons of animal protein versus plant protein, and also I'm going to be talking about conclusions to draw from this review and all the research thus far. So the basics of muscle building. First off, skeletal muscle building is controlled by muscle protein synthesis and muscle protein breakdown. So for this, we'll really only need to know or talk about muscle protein synthesis. So what that is, it is controlled by dietary protein intake and physical activity. So muscle protein synthesis is happens about 4 to 5 hours after food ingestion is when it becomes more sensitized and helps you build more muscle. And also physical activity has been shown to sensitize the anabolic properties of protein, making it easier to build new muscle. And this has been termed by the community, the muscle building community, as Anabolic Window. If you've heard of it, in the review it talks about how the anabolic window is about 24 hours after you do physical activity. So you don't need to eat your fucking food and stuff your fucking face 30 minutes after, or else you'll lose all your gains, stuff like that. It's not that simple. So but then again, if you didn't know that and you're watching this video thus far, where have you been? This has been known since 2011. Alright. Anyways, so amino acids. Amino acids are made of a carboxyl group, an amine group, and a side chain of carbon and hydrogen. Basically, you add all these amino acids together, you get a protein. There are 9 essential amino acids that you need from food that your body cannot produce, that you need to eat. Probably I phrased that differently about 3 times. You get the idea. So, and also the way scientists have measured how effective a protein is by taking a look at, say, meat or soy and measuring their essential amino acid profile and testing it against the minimum amount of amino acids and nitrogen your body needs. Now, taking that into account, these tables and these scores that are made, scoring these protein sources, aren't measures of how they affect you in your body, otherwise known as the anabolic potential. For example, Even though soy protein and meat are really close on the table of the protein digestibility corrected amino acid score, even though they're very close, it has been shown with studies that meat is more effective than soy, like a lot more effective than soy at muscle protein synthesis. That's just one example. So these tables aren't exactly like the do-all, end-all, be-all, holy grail of which meats you should eat, or protein you should eat. Anyways, now onto the pros and cons. So first, animal protein, the pros. So first off, easily digestible, have a better essential amino acid profile, more effective for older people, because older people can't get their essential amino acids profiles, all of it, as effectively from plants. And also, it has been shown, at least in this one study in the review, that eating animal protein can create leaner body mass gains. So, knowing that, nutritionally, animal proteins are basically more effective at giving you what you need. Now, on to the pros of plant protein sources, which are also the cons of animal protein sources, if you get that. The pros of plant protein is the cons of animal protein. Let me explain. So, plant protein is more sustainable than animal protein sources. This is a fact. Animal protein sources have to have more land, more water, and therefore more money to make animal protein sources. And also, plants are more sustainable, and most dietary protein is from plants than from animals right now in the world. I know probably if you're watching this in a quote-unquote developed country, meat isn't a problem. You can get it anywhere, you can afford it, but for some places it's either not accessible and not affordable. And with global warming, it is only going to become more expensive. It's not going to get cheaper. Alright, so up next, the plant protein source cons. So first off, they're less digestible. They have anti-nutritional factors that make it harder to digest. And none of the plant protein sources thus far have an essential amino acid profile that is beneficial to a person. More plant protein is converted to urea than animal protein, so you would have to eat more plant protein to get the same nutritional benefits as the same amount of animal protein. And also, there was a study in the paper that showed that being an omnivore was better than being a lacto-ovo-vegetarian, which, I mean, most people are omnivores, mostly. But there's a reason why you shouldn't say animal protein is better than plant protein just yet. Okay, so most of the studies are done with soy and wheat protein. More studies are needed on newer plant protein sources. And also, there aren't many newer plant protein sources, because getting protein from stuff like asparagus or peas is really expensive and difficult, and more money is needed to, make that stuff, to therefore study it to see how effective it is. So, also, depending on what studies you look at in this review, you could come up with different conclusions if you decide to, close your eyes and shut out the rest. For example, there was this one study in the review that said that over a prolonged time, with a resistance training program, all one would need to do is just simply eat more plant protein to make up for the fact that it's not as efficient as animal protein, and there you go, you get the same amount of gains. And also there was another study that showed that eating soy protein was more anabolic than eating animal-derived casein protein. So, I mean, from there, if you just look at those, you could say, like, plants are the best, animals the worst, you know. But you gotta look at the bigger picture. There's always a bigger picture. Anyways, also, there aren't many ways to measure how plant protein sources affect you once they're inside of your body. For example, there's stable isotope amino acid tracer methodology. What I just said was basically the way they measure how these amino acids from these different protein sources affect you. So there aren't many different or new ways to measure newer plant protein sources because the shit isn't there. You can't measure like how asparagus protein is going to be inside your body because there's no way to measure it. Stuff like that. So more research is needed. Yeah, more money. And also, if you free plant proteins from nutritional factors, the anti-nutritional factors, then they are just as effective as plant protein sources, as shown in the review. Also, if you mix different plant proteins together, you can make up for the essential amino acids you get in, say, drinking milk. So if you want to mix like lentils with, quinoa and other stuff to make up for either low leucine, low methionine, or low lysine, which are the three big ones that plants have trouble getting. That you have trouble getting from. You know what I mean. You get it. They're difficult. The three, they're difficult to get. Alright, so basically, in conclusion, it would seem that if you want to get all your essential amino acids simply, more effectively, depending on where you are, say you're in the USA, obviously it's going to be simpler, more effective to get all your essential amino acids from animal protein sources. But plant protein sources are more sustainable, more efficient, cheaper, and cheaper is just better. It's just a fact. Now, unless there is a way that people could figure out how to make animal protein sources cheaper, or just as cheap as growing plants, then great, awesome. But that would be more difficult. But I've heard people trying to grow meat in labs. I wonder if that's a thing. But yeah, if it becomes more effective, then great. But so far, it seems like plants have the advantage so far, and with global warming and a growing population, more land is going to be needed for people to live, so cows and chickens are going to have to go away because they take up a lot more space than growing plants, just by simple logic. Now, also, muscle protein synthesis isn't the be-all, end-all of growing muscle. All it does is, as the review says, all it does is it measures the restructuring properties of muscle. The restructuring, like how good your muscle is at building muscle and breaking down muscle. It doesn't measure hypertrophy or how good you are at retaining your muscle gains. Look at me. I eat animal protein. Really. I'm not that big. There are vegans bigger than me. I could probably post 1 million pictures just on this one video. It's not the be-all, end-all. Okay? So, in the end of the day, it's really what you want to do and or what you can do. But more research is needed to make both plant protein sources and animal protein sources cheaper and more readily available to the public without putting more CO2 into the atmosphere or being really fucking expensive. Alright. And that's it. Thanks for watching this video, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to learn new things. I'll be talking about many different things. And click down below if you want to see my video on global warming. And remember, nothing in life is ever just black or white. There's nuance to everything. Nothing is just better or worse. You know, gotta always look at the bigger picture. Alright, bye.